Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the pre-match press conference of the FIFA World Cup 2022 Qatar match between Brazil and Korea Republic. I'd like to kindly remind you once again, please mute your phone and turn off your mobile hotspots. As you can see on the screen, there will be FIFA interpreting app provided for you for the interpretation of English, Arabic, Korean, and Portuguese. Their remote mics will be passed by the volunteers, so please raise your hand if you have a question and address yourself of your full name and media so that we can understand where the question is coming from. Finally, we'll have a photo session to be provided by the photographers in front of you guys until the first question is answered. After that, I would like to kindly ask you to exit the room or stay behind the room. Back to business. Today we have Korea Republic team with our head coach Paulo Bento and player Kim Jin-soo. I know you have a lot of questions, so before I proceed the mic to the floor, I just want to say on behalf of Korean, I'm very proud of the achievement that you guys have made. Thank you. Gentlemen in the front.
Pedro Bassan da TV Globo.
Pedro Bassan from TV Globo in Brazil. My question goes to Paulo Bento. In Brazil, in the last few years, there is a trend of having Portuguese coaches, and the same goes for you now as a coach for the Republic of Korea. What is the secret that you apply, and how do you see this culture mix? I think it goes beyond nationalities. I do not think that's important. What should be important is for people to know what they want and why do they want it. If they are Portuguese, Italian, Brazilian, English, that does not matter. What matters is to know how skillful people are when taking on their responsibilities. And the fact that a Portuguese coach is successful, it does not mean that another Portuguese coach will be successful. I know many Portuguese coaches are competent, they know what they're doing, but the most important thing is that those who hire them know if they're good or not.
Apologies. Now, I'd like to kindly ask the photo session to stop and please move in the back seat of the press conference. Thank you. Next question.
예, 저 연합뉴스 TV.
I'm from Yonhap News. So I would like to congratulate both of you for making it to the knockout stage. I would like to ask one question each to both of you. First, to coach. So Brazil is a very, very strong team. So are you prepared with a very good strategy? So I'm sure you got this question from the group phase as well. So Kim Min-jae, can he play tomorrow? And the second question is that on the offense, Hwang Hee-chan played as a sub and he did very well. So Hwang Hee-chan, can he play tomorrow? And to Kim Jin-soo, my question is, every match you're playing against the top class, world class players. So what is your mindset going into tomorrow's match? Shall I go first? So we are playing up against world-class players. So I do not feel that I'm intimidated or pressured. In our national squad, there are world-class players. And along with many other great players. So every time we train together, we play with good players. So I think it doesn't come as a particularly bigger burden. to me.
Now, with regards to your questions, if I remember them correctly, the first one was regarding the strategy for the game tomorrow. The strategy for tomorrow is fully theoretical. We will base our strategy on what we know from Brazil. We will work based on the information and videos that we have watched from Brazil. And after seeing those images from our opponents, that will help to fine-tune our strategy. We know that it's a long process. Our players know what we want from them, and we will try to implement it through communication, basing our strategy on video. And we, unfortunately, do not have much time for training in the field of play, because 72 hours is too little. I doubt any team can do that. After the physical tiredness from previous games, more specifically the last game against Portugal, also the emotional fatigue, we decided to let our players rest yesterday, and we only trained this morning. And of course, that's a burden for the teams. We have an additional burden if compared to Brazil, and that's for obvious reasons. The way which Brazil changed its lineup for the last game. They did something we could not do in the last game. And honestly speaking, I watched the game against Brazil in 2018, and after the group stage, I do not remember seeing games played after 72 hours. I think the space in between the matches was longer. In my opinion, I do not think it's fair to play every match after 72 hours, but we need to accept it. If that's FIFA's decision, we need to understand, we need to accept it, and we need to also create the conditions for those who do not have them. It's difficult to play against a great team such as Brazil. In my opinion, Brazil is has the likelihood of winning this World Cup. And if we add to this all the burden that we have, our task obviously will be very difficult. Having said that, we will try, we will not give up. And regarding your last question, I have not decided yet who will be our lineup tomorrow. We will decide this at a later stage.
Mind one question per reporter, please. Go for it.
Paulo, Thiago Reis, da Rádio Itatiaia.
Paulo, Thiago Reis from Itatiaia in Brazil, in Belo Horizonte, where you lived. And I'd like to know if you have also followed up all the plays of Cruzeiro, a team of Brazil. And I would like to know also if you are worried about Neymar being in the field of play tomorrow. Regarding your first questions, yes, we have been following up the Cruzeiro performance, even after I left this team. I think it's part of the football. In Brazil, people watch much more football than in other countries. And I think that does not nullify all the care we have for this club, Cruzeiro, in Brazil. Unfortunately, one of the persons with whom we were very pleased to work with passed away, Mr. NSC, and therefore we have all these memories from Brazil. The fact that we are no longer there does not mean that we do not have fond memories of our stay in Brazil. Now, regarding your second question, we would be hypocrites if we said that we would prefer playing with Neymar. That would be a lie. We would prefer he would not be in the field of play. But honestly speaking, I always prefer that the best players are in the field of play. And of course, if they are not in the field of play, we hope it's not because of an injury. That's for sure. And I'm sure if Neymar is fit to play, Tite, the Brazilian coach, will decide whether to line him up or not, and we will decide to play the best game and to design the best strategy to compete against a great national team that is full of talents and that, unlike in many other years, is adding more and more intensity, more and more talented players.
예. 안녕하세요. 저 한국에서 YTN.
I am from YTN. I have a question for Mr. Bento and one for the player. Last June in Korea, we had a friendly match with Brazil. They had the best players in Brazil. And I think was that a good preparation for the match tomorrow? And for the player, we had 3 matches at the Education City, but the top 16, we're going to have the match in a new stadium. We haven't been there before, in Stadium 974. So they say that it's going to be the same, but do you have any concerns on playing there? Because you haven't been there, you haven't played there. Will that have any type of effect on your play in playing in different conditions? Yes, not being able to have been at the stadium. So I think that our coach has made a different tactics, but maybe it would have been better for us to have been there. But I think that the conditions don't really matter as much because how we prepare and how we train is more important. I heard the conditions are also very good.
I believe this will be a different match. I think Jun's situation is not something that we can compare with a friendly. We can't compare a friendly with an official match. I think in June we had a series of limitations. Let's see tomorrow if we will be able to not have so many restrictions as we had back in June. And we will try to compete in the very best manner possible. One thing is clear, the quality of Brazil is something which will be very likely. Their starting 11 will be very similar. It is likely that Vinicius will be playing. In June, he wasn't. But I believe it will be a starting 11 which will be very similar. The goalkeeper will also be different, I'm sure of that. But I believe that it is not possible for us to compare, and we shouldn't compare. It is another match. It's something we will have to be prepared for many challenges to some moments of a game be able to play as we intend to do and as we like to do. And in other moments, if we won't be able to do it, we will have to use a different strategy. We need to know that we will be suffering some burden. We'll be playing closer to our penalty box and accept that, because that's what the opponent will be forcing us to do. And obviously, we will fight to the utmost of our efforts as we have done so far. I believe we've been able to prove that we are a team that likes to play, we don't give up, we compete, and we leave everyone with a good impression, and that's what we will do tomorrow.
Mahmoud Abdullah, صحفي مصري.
Mahmoud Abdullah from Egypt. I'll be asking in Arabic. So, to the coach, 2002, when Asia had the first World Cup, Korea was in the golden square. So do you think this is something that would be doable this time? And since you are playing in Asia, for a matter of fact, but you are clashing with Brazil, who is the favorite for this World Cup. Thank you.
عام 2002
In 2002, when Asia hosted the World Cup for the first time, Korea managed to get under the first four. And today, you are playing in Asia again. Do you think that it will be possible for you to be under the first four, or do you think that clashing with Brazil, who is the favorite in this World Cup, is going to end your journey here?
I think we are here to compete tomorrow. And for that is something that we always try to prepare ourselves for the best possible match. The conditions are not ideal, as I have said, but what we have to do is to compete as well as possible. This is the third time in the history of Korean football that we have gone on to the knockout stage. One of the times, it was in the round of 16, and the other time, as you mentioned, we went on to the semi-finals, and that's 3 times in many years. I do not think that it's something that we should consider at this moment. Our goal, our target, and our energy should be directed to what we should do tomorrow and what has to be done tomorrow. And after that, we'll see what the future lays ahead of us.
SBS 이정찬 기자입니다. 벤투 감독님과 김진수 선수.
So I have a question for the coach as well as the player. So from the TSG at the Korea Football Association, if we went into the knockout stage, we usually have a fall in the concentration level because we're too happy about it. So first, for the player, I also want to ask about what the players are thinking. Are you truly wanting to get closer to the top 8? Now, for the coach, how are you motivating the players on moving closer to the top 8 or the top 4? So if I were to talk about my personal opinion first, I have waited for the World Cup for 8 years. So for me, one match, every single match is, and every 10 minutes or every 45 minutes, every 90 minutes is always very valuable and precious. And the entire team, I believe, has great morale, and we have a great teamwork, and we've waited so long to come to this knockout stage, and we all have truly wanted to come this far to the knockout stage. So I believe that we are all really thirsty for this. Of course, tomorrow it's going to be a very challenging match. We really want to show everyone what we've got, and if we can do that, I think that we will be able to show everyone what we have been waiting for after 12 years. And I think that that's the highest we can go is what we're aiming for.
I believe that if they needed a lot for me to motivate them to play the round of 16 of a World Cup, I think they would be in a bad spot. Because what they proved to us in those three matches shows us they are more than motivated. I think I can get more motivation from them than them from me. I think one of the things is we do not make any difference whatsoever using the TSG data. There's no doubt about that.
Carlos Matos Rodrigues, Sport TV, Portugal.
Carlos from Sport TV in Portugal. Here to your right, in front of you. No, here, Paulo, here to your left, sorry. We are already looking at Brazil, but there's some hours that we had the opportunity. We didn't have the opportunity to hear Paulo Bento talking after the match. We heard your assistant coach. How are you living this moment, which is epical, being off of the pitch? We actually saw a moment when you were more interested in watching the match than realizing how nervous you were with everyone. But what was it that Paulo Bento, how did you live those 90 minutes and how did you hear the final whistle and waiting for the end of the other match, the very tense moment? It was a very important match for the Korea Republic team and for us to be able to reach a goal, which was very important for us in order to be able to make the people happier. And I don't think they could be prouder than what they are at this time. It is obvious that this was a match which already had a very high emotional burden because of everything which was happening, because of the sports, because of the fact that since the draw, we were aware that we would be playing the last match in the group phase against my country. Since then, I knew that that was something which I wouldn't have liked to have done, but obviously I had to do it. So we had to prepare in the very best manner possible with our professionalism. But obviously, there's no doubt that after the ball started to run in the pitch, I tried to live it in the very best manner possible. In a slightly different manner, I would say, because I wasn't on the coaching bench, but that was it. That was only that. I wasn't able to see them as close as I would like to. I saw them. I had to see them from a bit further away, actually with a slightly better vision to be able to watch the entire match. And despite being slightly further away from them, but I was with them all the time and very, very pleased and very proud to see how they played, to see how they competed, how they believed in themselves. And that is what led us to be successful. And I didn't live it in the same way that they lived the second half after the match finished, because I went down from the seats where I was. I went down to the pitch to obtain information that the other match was still running, because they had a higher amount of stoppages. And I believe Uruguay started the second half 8 minutes after we started our match. So I believe that is something which FIFA has to pay attention to, that they should control that situation, because obviously that could have a very significant interference with the objectives and strategies if there is that kind of delay. And we just want to highlight the FIFA managers to think about this in the future, in order to have more equal terms for everyone. I think that's something which should be done.
We have 3 more questions starting off.
I have both questions for players and manager, Bentu. First, Bentu, you coached the Cruzeiro in years ago in Brazil. So people saying football culture is different from Korea and Brazil, of course. And what was your experiences in Brazil? What you were thinking about it can be advantage for against Brazil? And 김진수 선수에게도 질문을 드리겠습니다. 벤투
This is for the Kim Jin-soo. So there are some differences in the World Cup, this World Cup. As a fullback, do you think that there is any difference compared to the previous World Cup? So now, after Bentu took reign and other coaching staff started working, the biggest difference is that my range of activity have been widened. So the biggest difference for me was that I was able to move into the box. So that means that I have a new weapon, and all the coaching staff, including Bentu, told me that this is possible. So for me, that was the biggest change compared to other World Cups.
Eu creio que foram duas questões.
I believe there are two questions. Yes, I believe I'm a realist. I've already conveyed this to them. I've conveyed that this is a tough objective we have ahead of us, but we will obviously have to try with different strategies, but we will have to try. Regarding the experience in Brazil, it was very short. So it's difficult to talk about an experience which lasted only 2.5 months. I don't really have many words to be able to tell you what one feels in a 2.5 month experience. Yes, obviously, I've already mentioned this. I have very good memories of the people with whom I worked with when I was in Brazil. Good afternoon. My name is Nivaldo from the TV Bandeirantes in Brazil. My question is, what is the importance of overcoming such a strong national team and that is so important as Brazil? And if you see weaknesses in Brazil and also their strengths, could you please tell us what they are? And also, could you tell us what are the strengths and weaknesses in your team? And for the player, does anything concern you in the Brazilian national squad? And if yes, what?
So ahead of the match with Brazil, what concerns me is the question of what I'm most concerned about is whether my teammates, how much can they recover from injuries and whether they will be able to play fully tomorrow. Because they're such Brazilian players, they are world class and they're very talented. So this is something that we have to accept. But we have been preparing really hard, and we have been proving ourselves that we are also capable. So in the next big match tomorrow, I think how confident we are, and our fighting spirit it will be important, and we have to sacrifice ourselves for our teammates and other supporting staff. So that will be the key factor tomorrow.
I believe weaknesses, every team has them. Strengths, the same. Brazil also has theirs. We will try to explain it to the players and try to take an opportunity. We haven't had time to practice. There hasn't been time to do that, but we will try to do that from a theoretical standpoint. Regarding ours, you have to understand, I will not tell you what our weaknesses are, right? It's easy for you to understand the reasons behind that. Regarding the other part of the question, I've had the opportunity to tell the players this morning that if we were playing in Brazil with many matches, I would say Brazil will be ahead. Brazil will be the champion. But if it's one match, I say Brazil has a great possibility of beating us. We have less possibility. But yes, in one match, it's not like an entire tournament. We have one chance. It's that. And we have to respect the outcome. Tomorrow, I think it's the same for us. There's nothing to lose. There's absolutely nothing to lose. There's only something to win. The only thing we need to do, the only thing we must remember is to show the image of a team which wants to play, wants to compete, wants to fight until the very last whistle. And there's no doubt whatsoever that's what my players will do. And based on that, everything is a victory for us. Everything.
Thanks for the last question. Joshua Cloak with The Athletic in Canada. Question for Jinsu. Both South Korea and Japan have made it to the round of 16, 20 years after Japan and South Korea co-hosted the World Cup. I'm curious, what do you think the legacy of co-hosting that World Cup is in Korea? And do you think that has an impact on this team 20 years later?
일본이 16강을 올라가고.
So yes, whether or not Japan made it to the top 16 or which other team made it, I think that the most important part is that we made it to the top 16. I think that we really need to focus on us making it to the next round. And I think we do have good memories back in 2002, making it to the top 4. I think that we do want to relive that moment for ourselves.
Thank you, everyone. Just a reminder, the match between Brazil and Korea Republic is tomorrow at 10 p.m. at 974 Stadium. Thank you, everyone, and good luck.
Thank you.